Brought to you by PrayLatin.com, makers of prayer cards featuring complete English phonetic renderings of Latin pronunciations.
2024 has been a year of, or has been the subject of year in review videos. I participated on the Avoiding Babylon channel in a year in review discussion. Yesterday I was on with Joe McLean talking about what to expect in 2025 and a couple of the 2024 highlights. Secular political channels did all this stuff. I went and did a live stream myself on year in review. You should check that out if you want. If you haven't, because I made a basic prediction on what 2025 would be like based on everything they did in 2024. And in 2024, there were many major events, but I want to show you what this looked like from the other side. Another group did a celebratory kind of article about 2024 that shows us what 2024 was really for those in power in the church. It was what we can call a full mask-off moment regarding the James Martin sin being made normal in the life of the church. Late 2023, Fiducia Supplicans was foisted upon the church, and 2024 was a year of its implementation, including people lying to your face by telling you that it wasn't actually authorizing blessings of James Martin pairings, when it rather explicitly says it was, if you read the actual document. And I've said it before, and I will say it again, the new synodal church will have a James Martin face. That's hard for some people to accept, but it's been a deep subject of those synodal meetings. It's going to be a subject of those working groups. It's a subject of Fiducia Supplicans, and it's, well, if you remember, they're having a pilgrimage for the Jubilee year in September, specifically for that group. And we're not talking about those who carry the cross of an affliction that none of us really can even comprehend, and they live as Catholics should. That's heroic virtue on full display. Go look at Courage International if you want to see heroic virtue in our time. I am not talking about them. I'm talking about the group here who is celebrating how good a year they had in 2024 in the church. New Ways Ministry, who has this headline. We're going to modify it a bit. The best Catholic James Martin multi-letter acronym news stories of 2024. It was a banner year for them. They got everything they wanted, just about. Almost. The Synod's final documents didn't come out and say, hey, we need you to change church teaching. But the groundwork was laid for that. Because remember, the Synod on Synodality was about process, including moral and doctrinal matters being discussed and decisions made about them to include the laity. And the laity, all research shows, all the data shows that the laity in the Catholic Church today, your typical regular Mass attendee, actually disagrees with the Church and its teachings on the morality of the James Martin question. They disagree on what the Church teaches on that subject entirely. That's the laity they're having in the process. So the best Catholic James Martin multi-letter acronym news stories of 2024. Number one, Vatican remains firm on offering blessings to the James Martin pairings despite criticism and bans from some quarters of the church. The Vatican is not backing down on this while we have Francis or somebody like him on the throne of Peter. And while Fernandez is the one at the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, you are not going to see this back down on. And they know that, and that's why they're celebrating this. New Ways Ministry, if you don't know, is an organization founded in the 70s by a wayward nun and a wayward priest. Pray for the repose of his soul, by the way. If he did not end in eternal perdition, then he needs your soul or your prayers, because he's going to spend a lot of time in purgatory, almost certainly, if he did not repent of what he was doing. But New Ways Ministry, founded in the 70s to get the church to change its teachings on the James Martin question. They had been condemned by bishops in the United States for decades until suddenly the nun, who is now definitely, in her sunset years, became pen pals with Pope Francis, started having pictures taken with him, and was participating in synod meetings and all the rest of it. Victory for them, they think, is near. Hence why this is their number one story. Remains firm on blessing the James Martin pairings, and despite criticisms. That's why it's their number one story. Number two story, Francis meets for almost 90 minutes with some very confused and afflicted people at the Vatican, a meeting arranged by New Ways Ministry. Talking about influence here, this organization's got a lot of influence in Rome. Pope also greets a group of very confused people in St. Peter's Square on 2 separate occasions. That's helping to normalize the entire question, to make it normal so Catholics have a better time, an easier time accepting it. Number 3 story, L'Osservatore Romano, the Vatican's newspaper run by the Jesuits, probably the oldest Jesuit publication in the world, publishes a pro-James Martin article by Father Timothy Radcliffe, who was named a cardinal later in the year. Father Timothy Radcliffe is the one who described activities that are a parody of activities that are normally suited to the married state. Describe them as Eucharistic. The sins that the James Martin crowd engages in most of the time behind closed doors, unless you've ever seen their gatherings in public. He could describe them as Eucharistic a decade ago. Describe them that way he described them in a public manner that made it so those were actually in the public record, and they made him a cardinal anyway. There's a lot of implications about now Cardinal Timothy Radcliffe being named a cardinal. Number 4, the Catholic Church in Germany continues to the way in developing equality for the James Martin crowd, including establishing a national commission for them and their pastoral care and welcoming very confused people to preach at a national church meeting. Yes, now they've had formal meetings of their bishops in Germany where very confused individuals were permitted to speak. That is them endorsing them. Their 5th most important story, more Catholic bishops, including Diocese of San Diego, that's Cardinal McElroy, and Trier, I'm not sure where that one is, apologized to the James Martin crowd for the church's quote-unquote mistreatment of them, meaning when the church upheld its teachings on these things. Number 6, the vowed hermit ministering in the Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky, reveals that person is confused about the nature of reality and has the approval of their bishop. That is true. That she is confused and has the approval of her bishop. That is true. That happened. I reported on that story, as did everybody virtually. It's an American bishop who is playing along with this nonsense. Number 7, Pope Francis meets with Claire Byagaba, an activist on this subject from Uganda. And during their conversation, he once again condemns the state taking actions against the spread of this ideology. Number 8, a federal judge in Colorado rules that Catholic dioceses cannot discriminate on the basis of the identity related to the flesh in a case regarding schools. Of course, that's Colorado. If you know anything about their politics, that won't surprise you. Number 9, the Vatican reverses its initial ban against appointing pro-James Martin priest theologians as dean at a theological school in northern Italy. Reported on that when that happened. This is how you get the church to quote-unquote change its teaching. The new synodal church will have a James Martin face. They lay out all the big stories of the year on that to prove that that's happening. And finally, the Archdiocese of Atlanta institutes a commission on the James Martin crowd dedicated to better understanding the realities and pastoral needs of that group of Catholics. Honorable mention to the Outreach 2024 conference in Washington, D.C. Outreach is James Martin's organization, and they pair up with New Ways Ministry all the time. And the other one is the official mascot of Jubilee 2025, Luce His. Blue hair, and of course, lets you know what kind of language they want to use when talking about them. And Luce has friends that are all of the James Martin crowd. For those of you defending Luce, you might want to take note of that. That is New Ways Ministry, folks. And this goes back to power and influence and what they're doing. The rot runs deep. Don't be surprised by that recent news about McCarrick. Okay, the rot runs deep. You should not be surprised by the things that McCarrick was involved in. You should not be surprised by what the modernists are doing here. None of this should be surprising. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps, and so does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.